What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Northern Valley. We are back and we are going to be working with these ships again, but this time we're not working with cargo at all. We're working with passenger ships. Now, I got a mod that allows us to go in and edit the little path that the boats take in the game that spawn in. So this was necessary, as you can see, because we had a little bit of an issue with cargo ships running into Winstanley Isle. So we took care of that by rerouting them a little farther away. I think the issue with that was that they were trying to cut from the little invisible path directly to the cargo place at a very weird spot, and that's what was causing them to just run into an island, which was comical, but not intended. So yes, but anyway, this is where we are going through with our cargo passenger harbor. Not cargo, our passenger harbor. I don't know why I'm gonna say cargo a lot, I feel like, but no, we are working with cargo. It's just people. So yes, this was never originally going to be a passenger harbor over here. This highway connection was always going to be for a cargo harbor, and then in the last episode, as you can see, that did not fit the plan anymore. So we had this really weird highway, and I think originally my plan was to put the passenger harbor on the island that's in between this and the actual downtown city. And I was fully going in intending on doing that, but then my chat had said, why don't we just put the harbor over here instead? And I think it made a lot more sense, because this little highway over here really had no purpose after we kind of changed up where we were going to put the cargo. So this actually gives us a bit of a purpose, and it's a really good use of this land over here. It's such a random kind of weird piece of land here. It's very narrow, and it's surrounded by water on one side, and of course those huge ridges on the other side. So this actually gives us a really nice purpose. And we, of course, have to go in and put in a whole interchange and all that kind of fun stuff to get people into the downtown area. So, yes, we spend a lot of time trying to get this little interchange working. I didn't want to just do like a cookie cutter interchange, and I really originally wasn't intending on putting highway over into the island. I was just going to do a single, like, maybe a 6-lane bridge over there. But somebody in the Twitch chat had said, why don't we just do a full-on interchange and have highway going down there. So it made a little bit of sense, and to be honest, it was pretty fun to do. Well, fun is subjective. It was kind of a pain to do, but it was interesting work. I mean, you try to get like these like circles here, and it's really, really hard to do that with even with the move it tool. Like, you're trying to get those angles and like all the curves to line up fairly nice, and I'll be honest, it's probably not perfect, but it's good enough. When you get down low to where like citizens would see these little swirly on and off ramps, it looks great. But it's when you're directly over them, it doesn't look absolutely perfect, I guess. But no, it is fine. And we, of course, have to go through and connect up both ways to this. So yes, this highway system is pretty interesting. It's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna get used a lot, but we'll definitely see more use of all of this after we get the rest of the city kind of built. Now, I'm thinking that's probably going to be the focus of the next episode. We're going to be starting on that whole island and the tourism and all that kind of fun stuff, and I'm probably going to go in and get some custom buildings for that, because I was going throughout the rest of this build, I was looking at some of the buildings and stuff, and the stock stuff probably, it just doesn't fit the feel that we've had throughout this city so far. So I'm gonna need to look for some custom hotels and that fun asset type, and then we'll be using that in the next episode. But as you can see, this highway dead ends over to where we're gonna have our little harbor. Now, it hasn't necessarily been built yet. We're just kind of getting the entrance in. But we have the toll booths again, and this isn't because this is a toll road. This is because the parking that we're going to be putting in here, I figured it was kind of like long-term parking, so I feel like it was going to be fitting to have to pay for your parking. So that's why we have the toll roads in. And then, of course, we slap a couple of these little harbors down here. The cruise ships will be going into it, and then we have this, which is, I believe, a ferry harbor. So we have one ferry harbor and 2 cruise liner harbors, and this is going to generate a lot of access, I guess, for a lot of guests to come visit our city. So yes, you'll see toward the end of this and when we go into the live portion that we do have a lot of people who end up coming via boat to check out the city, which is actually kind of surprising. I mean, there's really nothing that we've built that I would have thought would have had like an impact in tourism, but apparently some of the buildings that we've been placing down, like the custom assets for like the skyscrapers and stuff like that, those are actually leisure type influenced buildings. And yes, so we actually have a lot of people who want to come to the city. They just never could before. Well, that's not true. We actually had some of the train lines hooked up, but it seemed like not a lot of people wanted to take the train. A lot of people are coming via boat, and then even more will show up when we get the airport kind of situated. So yes, we are, of course, turning this into a bit of a passenger hub. This is a prime spot to put like a huge bus depot, and then someone had the idea to put a train station down here, which I wasn't really planning on before, but the people in the chat have been so helpful throughout these builds. It's incredible. So yeah, someone had the idea to connect up the train line down here. And so, yeah, that's going to be pretty cool when we get it hooked up. We don't actually get it hooked up this episode, but we are intending to take that train line and I think just take it down to the airport where we're going to have an even bigger passenger hub down there. So yes, all of these things are going to feed into each other. It's going to be really awesome. And that's, I think, one of the things about City Skylines that I think I lost a little bit of touch with, and that is that this game is such a good like logistics simulator that all of this detail work and all of this like designing in this game, it's definitely, it takes away from that. Like you kind of forget that when you build a really well organized highway system that people use it, and you get like that satisfaction of seeing your work, and when it's done right, everybody's using it and there's no problems with it. So yes, I think that's one of those things that I kind of forgot about as we've been playing. But anyway, you're seeing me go through with the terrain tool, and on these back cliffs, I was just going through and I was going to kind of roughen them up a little bit because they were so smooth that something about it just kind of didn't look natural. So we had to give it a little bit of like here and there, like take the terrain down a little bit, create a little bit of like a gully, if that's the right word for that. And yeah, it looks a lot better when you step back. And I've talked about the texture pack on this before, but like when you step back and there's the texture that it has, and then it's got like that other third dimension to it, it makes the sides of these cliffs look a lot better. And really, that's something I should probably go and do a lot more of around the city, just because we have so much terrain, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's not exactly the best design terrain, but I think a little bit of work here and there could probably do a lot for the aesthetics of it all. But you're seeing me right now go ahead and start on the parking lot. Now, these parking lots, I wanted to kind of approach this in a different manner. I think before, throughout the city, we've been doing a lot of, well, yeah, here and there we've been doing a lot of parking. But I think before, I've just been essentially just paving a lot of the parking lots. And then it just kind of, I've been trying to throw parking in here and there just to fill up these areas. Now, over here, I wanted to do something a little bit more thought out. So I didn't want to just go through and pave it all with the terrain painter and then go through and just put all of the parking spots that I could down. I wanted to make it look like it's more of a design feature, and someone had to go through and plan out these parking lots. So that's kind of the goal that I had in mind when I was doing all of this. And you actually saw me start with the terrain painter, and then of course I deleted it all just to try to take this new approach of putting the spaces in first and then using those curbs that we figured out in the last episode to create kind of a barrier, and then paint all of that later on. And you'll see me go right now actually and go ahead and put some of these curbs in. Now, I did learn that the the large curb is good. These medium curbs aren't so good for what we do with them because it doesn't cover the terrain painter. Like the little terrain paint can actually get under that without you intending it to. So the large ones cover up all of those like weird mistakes, but the small ones do not. So keep that in mind if you're going through and doing this kind of stuff in your city. But yeah, I love the way that this creates that kind of barrier. Now, some of you may be asking why I'm putting these curbs in, and the reason, or the rationale behind that is that if you look at the roads, we have these curbs on these roads, and like the sides of the roads are sidewalks. Now, the cars, I guess they could jump the curb, but it's not entirely realistic. So we have these little cross streets going in, and it takes that curb away. So if you think about it, the parking lot would be higher up than the street itself. So that's why we now have our own like separate barriers, and you're kind of seeing me fuss around with the painter tool a little bit and trying to get it looking pretty good. But yeah, that's why I'm saying you want to stick with the large ones there. You can see kind of the mistakes from underneath the small or the medium-sized curbs there. But yes, I love how this kind of turns out, and really, I don't know, this whole area, once we got rolling with it, it was really awesome. I mean, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but then once we started getting the idea of like, hey, we need some long-term parking and we need to do this kind of stuff, it was really pretty awesome. But as you see, we are actually placing some zoning down here as well, and that was another suggestion from chat to give this area a little bit more of a live feel, because before, when we just had the cargo hub, or not the cargo, again, I keep saying that, no, when we just had the harbor down here, we really didn't have much traffic being generated down here. Unless people were leaving the island, they weren't coming down here. So having a little bit of that commercial area zone down here adds a little bit more incentive for people to come down here. And you're seeing me go ahead now and put some more bus lines in. And well, the reason for this was that the ferry depot, or the ferry hub that we had down here, has bus lines, and originally I went to put the bus lines in there, but because we had to move that ferry dock down with the move it tool, it kind of screwed up those bus lines. Like, they were floating and all that stuff. So I actually went to a smaller little bus stop, except that one didn't have enough stops and you couldn't overlap them. So in the end, we go with the big major bus stop, or hub, I think, the bus hub, and then of course we have our train stop back in on the other side of it. So this is all looking good. And then we just did all of that parking work, and now we have to go through and fill it out with cars. Now, this is something that I thought of, and I'm surprised I didn't think of it earlier, and that was to just add a bunch of the cars, and just every time, like basically any car that I have, I put it down on the map, and then anytime I'm gonna need to go get cars or trains or anything that I placed, I'm gonna go over there and grab them and then copy them over and then start using them from like a palette sense. So yeah, this actually saved a lot of time, and I highly recommend, if you have a ton of assets and you're doing this kind of work where you need a bunch of different cars and stuff, do this. Like, put them all out somewhere in the back of the map where you're never really gonna go, and just have them there, because this saved so much time and it was so nice. But anyway, after we got all of the parking, or all of the cars placed, we had to adjust their heights because they, for some reason, floated. But it seems like if you take the move it tool and you take a car and push it all the way down, it'll pop back up to like the natural height that it's supposed to sit on pavement. So yeah, that's one little trick that I found throughout the years that I've played this game. But anyway, what we're doing right now is going through and starting the line, the train line toward the mainland, if you will. So yes, this was kind of interesting because it had to kind of snake around this highway interchange that we laid out, and then we had to go under some bridges, and then I don't think we actually finished this in this episode. Again, it isn't hooked up to anything, but we're just kind of laying this out for future use. So we had to go around a few of these bridges and then just kind of point it toward where we're gonna finish all of that line with. So yes, that's going toward the airport island that will eventually be the airport island. So yes, this little substation that we're putting in is because there was no power run over to this area, and so I decided to put a little wind farm up on the top of one of these cliffs, and then we have these little power lines running up to them. And I think it creates a really interesting little feature for this area. It's like it's all kind of independently run off its own power source, and it's of course renewable energy, and it's got a really interesting little way of getting the power to it, and I believe it's something that's fairly realistic, which is cool. Anyway, we're going through and doing some of the key wall work. Now, I didn't really want to go too overboard with the key walls, although I don't know, I could have, but I felt like kind of limiting that was probably for the best. And really, this river's gonna look so different when we're finally said and done with all of this stuff, because we have to like line the sides of these rivers and make it look a little bit more man-made, because these are highly developed areas. Now, on this other side, I really had no idea what we were gonna do. And for the longest time, I was like, maybe I could put like housing over here or something and make it look like vacation homes. But then I figured we'll just put a bus depot down here, because we've only had one bus depot in the city so far. And of course, this is a major hub for some transportation. And so it kind of fit and it looked cool. It looked like there was something added. But then the rest of this, we're actually going to fill out with some more parking. I really wanted this area to look like it was pretty much a very major like hub for transportation. So lots of parking is what I had in mind, and I thought we were going to be fine with the first area of parking that we did, but when I stepped back, I was like, I feel like we can do more with a lot more parking, just because you would think that if there's a major cruise line being operated out of this, you'd have a lot of like cruises going on, and you'd have a lot of people on the cruises. So I'll be honest, I've never actually been on a cruise, so I don't know what like their harbors look like when people leave. So I was kind of guessing on all of this, but I felt like we needed more parking. And of course, we had this really awesome parking garage. So we'll end up putting that in and using the Move It tool in a little bit here. But we, of course, just copied over some of the work that we did already with these curbs and the parking lots, and basically just tweak them a little bit to fit this area. And this is one of those things that it took me forever to learn. Like, look, we've already built this stuff. It's not like cheating to just copy what you've already built and then use that. So that's really something that I've been trying to be more conscious of when we're building. It saves a lot of time and it looks just as good. We have these parking garages, and like I said in the last episode, I got road anarchy, and I figured out that if you have road anarchy on, you can place buildings on roads. So it really saved us for this area, because it was such an awkward place to put a building with those roads being so close to the quay walls, that everything needed to be kind of lined up perfectly. And it was really nice to be able to just plop those parking garages down and not have to worry about trying to get the road just right to be able to open up space for it. So yeah, we worked around that a little bit. And then of course we had a little bit more detail work to do with some nature around this area. And yeah, I think this area comes out really awesome. Like from the highway, it looks great. From across the river, it looks amazing. This parking garage really adds to that like feel that I kind of had, where it was like, you know, this is an area where people are going to go park for a while and be out on a boat for a long time. So yes, I think this was all accomplished. And of course, we're going to go right into the live portion here, and we're going to check out what we've just been doing. All right, we are live right outside of our harbor, and isn't it beautiful? I mean, it's a little like subdued, but it's such a nice little area. I mean, it's definitely not over the top, and it doesn't need to be. It's so there's something about it. I love it, especially because like from on this bridge, you look down, and you're like, yes, that's clearly a harbor, and yes, there are clearly a lot of people who are going to use this. I mean, they have so much parking, and yeah, I mean, this whole area has really come out as something that's it's just so nice, because like I said, before this episode, I really had no plans for this whole little piece of land, and now it is just all developed, and it's so nice. Now, obviously, we really couldn't get much like going on over here beside the harbor, so I was kind of tossing around the idea of maybe we'll put some like industry or something over here, and it really just wouldn't fit. I mean, there's not enough room to get like an off-ramp off of the highway, and then also have like industry and all that stuff. So yes, this is all... Did somebody just die in the parking garage? Huh. Maybe we'll just not talk about that. But yeah, anyway, yes, this is the harbor, and as you can see, it is busy, and at the same time, there are a lot of open spaces here. Like, a lot of this grass I left in here on purpose. I mean, I could have gone through with some like trees, but I felt like we had a lot of trees going on anyway, so I didn't really want to overdo it too much. But it's something that, I don't know, it's just this little open like square over here really adds a lot, because as you can see, there are a lot of people walking around, and there are actually a ton of boats coming in and out of this place at any given time. So yeah, you'll notice as we get a boat in, we get just a mass of people. And when we first started building this, basically everybody took a car and they just like pocket carred out of here. And right now it's awesome because you get a split of people who spawn in and spawn a car, but then there's a lot of these people who will end up going and walking and using these paths up to either the train station or the bus hub over here. Now this train station, as you can see, actually has a metro line connected to it, so there are 3 metro lines connected to it. So yes, we went through and we did a little bit of organization. I guess I could show you guys that now. We did a lot of bus work, and really we have about half of this bus hub used up, and all of these are only going into the city. So this is the main city bus network. And then the other half of these are going to go to this little tourism island that we have planned, and probably one line that'll end up, well, I was going to say go over to the airport, but no. Right now we have this little train line that goes over to the airport, and that is going to connect up to a train station over here. So this is going to be our airport, and it's going to have a bunch of connections. So yeah, there's really no need for a bus to go over there. So yes, we also have these metro lines that go into the main city. We only have 2 connected at this point, but there's a 3rd one, and that's going to connect up to this little island over here. So yeah, this little hub is very easily accessible for a lot of things. So I love this. It's so good. And we've named it Bay Point Harbor, and somebody in chat on the live stream had also suggested the name Linden Tours, because Linden was this original district when I placed it down. It said like Linden Hills, I want to say, but no, we've changed it. So Linden Tours was suggested. I didn't really want to name the harbor that, but we're pretending that Linden Tours is the company that runs the cruise liners, and obviously has to hire better boat drivers. Yeah, it's all set. It's all awesome. I love this area. This is such a nice little area, and like I was talking about, little things like this power line that goes up here, this is actually a custom mod. There are really awesome power lines on the workshop right now that we've been waiting probably 2 years for, and we finally have one. You don't have to do any trickery to get these things to look good. They're just completely custom big assets, and these lines look awesome. So we're going to have to go through and replace a lot of those, and every now and then, if you've watched the live streams, you know that this water does this. It just, for some reason, it fluctuates up and down a lot, and then like it'll come back, but it's just this weird lull of where there's no water, and then like right behind it all the water builds up. So that's just City Skylines water for you. But yeah, I really don't know if there's much else to talk about for this harbor. I love the way everything functions here. It's so awesome to just be able to watch these people go onto their buses and onto their metro lines and come back and go onto these like boats and all this stuff. So yes, everything is just so nice over here. So yeah, this little interchange, as I was talking about in the live stream, from down low and actually like person level, it looks fine, but as you get up high, these are clearly not perfect circles. So I wouldn't please go easy on me, I guess, in the comments. I know it's not perfect, but I guess I could try to tweak them, but it looks fine from every other angle, so I figured it's probably fine. But yeah, anyway, in the next episode, we are gonna, I guess, start work on the little island. So this is gonna be our stadium district and some tourism and nightlife type stuff. So we're gonna get a nice little area for that, and of course our water level is absurdly high because of that river issue again. That drains out after a while, but it's okay, we have this all paved and it's all set, nothing's gonna get super damaged. So yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it for this episode, guys. Let me know if you liked it with a thumbs up, a thumbs down if you disliked it. Anything you need to talk about, put it down in the comments section. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you back here in Northern Valley.